Hi, so my name's James McKay. I'm the current chair of the InterLymph Consortium. I work in the International Agency Researching Cancer in Lyon in France. So InterLymph is a really interesting research consortium because it makes up of a wide variety of different types of researchers. So we involve clinicians, we involve traditional scientists, we involve geneticists like myself, but also bioinformaticians, pharmacologists, pathologists. So we have a really wide involvement within the InterLymph research community. The idea behind that is that we usually try and take a multidisciplinary approach to most of these diseases. So we try to involve multiple different disciplines: epidemiology, genetics, pathology, clinical work. All those things are put together inside InterLymph, and we try and take that approach to address these problems we're chasing. So the InterLymph Consortium was actually created to understand the etiology aspects of lymphoma susceptibility. So one of the biggest issues that we have as scientists is developing enough understanding and enough statistical power, enough power to be able to really gain insightful instances. And sometimes that isn't enough to be done in a single study. So what we do within InterLymph, and the whole rationale behind InterLymph, was to bring together more than one study. In this instance, we have at least now 30 different studies to try and gain insights that really are not achievable by looking at just one single study. So we try and put this data to try and get over some of the loopholes that may happen inside a single study. This also allows us to look at different things across different populations, the different countries, and within populations, and different subtypes of lymphomas. InterLymph is really involved in understanding the etiological factors for lymphoma. So we're really understanding the risk factors, so the environmental risk factors, what might influence someone's risk of developing lymphoma over their lifetime. So we do a lot of work on understanding things like pesticide use, various different occupational exposures, understanding BMI, and that influence on or overweight, those types of influences on lymphoma risk. We also understand smoking and tobacco use, and also things like genetics, and to understand one's genetics profile and how that influences your lymphoma risk. We also have some work that's involved in biomarkers, which is really aimed at developing things that are able to detect the disease earlier. But the overall arching goal of InterLymph is to really understand the etiological factors, so understanding the reasons why someone might be provoked into having a lymphoma. That we're not necessarily pursuing really cutting edge or different approaches. What we're really trying to do is use our size and our scope to really validate the findings that come up within individual studies. So very often in science, one finds a very interesting finding from one particular study, but because of the scientific rigor that we require as scientists, that study needs to be replicated across different countries and different populations and other settings. And that's the real power of InterLymph, is to be able to take findings that pop up and are of interest, and then make sure that they are robust across multiple populations and different types of studies. And that's where InterLymph really has an edge. The really exciting part of InterLymph over the next few years is simply the size and the scope of the InterLymph program. Over the last years, as you well know, this community knows that lymphomas are not just one disease, but many, many different diseases. And one of the most exciting things is now we approach to develop a large number of studies coming together, we can start looking at some of the rarer subtypes, T-cell lymphomas, other rare subtypes of lymphomas. And because of that, where individual studies might not have enough number of cases to be able to make a meaningful insights into the etiology of these diseases, by pooling data across all these different studies, we can start to make some meaningful contribution to these rarer diseases. I mean, the InterLymph is itself very, very reliant on the goodwill of lymphoma patients. Most of our work requires us to be undertaking genetic or environmental studies that involve the participation in lymphoma patients and unaffected people from all around the world. So a lot of the work that we do simply cannot exist without the goodwill that we have and the contributions that are made from individual patients. And the majority of that is none of it's remunerated, that we're not paying people to participate. All of it's really coming through just the goodwill of being involved in these studies and the hope we understand these diseases better. The other thing with InterLymph is that most of the researchers, this is in addition to their normal jobs. So we also are not necessarily paid to do this type of work. We actually do this as an addition to our normal jobs within our research institutions. And again, it's about passion. So what has been incredibly important, because it is for most in-kind support, the Lymphoma Coalition providing the financial support over the last few years has been such an incredible boost to what we can and can't do in the context of InterLymph. And the InterLymph community is extremely grateful for the support the Lymphoma Coalition has given.